When a man begins to fall silent, it doesn't come with a declaration, yet it carries more impact than 1,000 words. Just yesterday, he was texting, calling, leaving little signs of attention, and then suddenly the rhythm stops. The phone that once lit up with familiar messages now feels empty, still. And it is in that silence that a woman's mind begins to spiral. Silence is not simply the absence of a message. It is a mirror reflecting her deepest insecurity. Am I enough? Did I do something wrong? Or was he never truly serious? The painful truth is that most women faced with this situation fall straight into the same familiar trap. They rush to find answers, replay every conversation, examine every detail, convincing themselves he must just be busy. But silence is never random. It is a message, whether he realizes it or not. You are not my priority. What hurts more than the silence itself is how a woman responds to it. As worry takes over, she begins writing long messages, sending more than necessary, desperately trying to hold the connection together. Each time she checks her phone, her heart races, hoping for a signal that never comes. Each passing minute feels like another denial of her worth. And in that moment, the real power slips away from her hands. The truth is, the more you chase someone pulling away, the more you confirm to him that he holds control. Men do not respond to explanations, pleading, or repeated questions like, "What's wrong? Did I do something?" What captures his attention is not words, it is the absence of them. When you try to prove your value by clinging on, you unconsciously send the opposite signal. You are more important than me. I am so afraid of losing you that I will lower myself. And once that happens, the balance of power shifts entirely to him. This is the core issue. Silence itself doesn't kill a relationship. It's the anxious reaction to that silence that destroys it. The moment you rush to erase the discomfort, you hand him the roadmap for how to treat you. He learns that all he has to do is withdraw, and you will do the rest. Blame yourself, try to reconnect, even beg for his presence. A man never respects what comes too easily. When he's certain you will always be there, he stops trying. His silence becomes habit, and your reaction becomes permission. From here, your value erodes not because he ignores you, but because you accepted it as normal. The problem is not that he fell silent. The problem is that you allowed his silence to define your worth. You cannot control a man's actions, but you can absolutely control your response. The first step to awakening is this truth. An unanswered message is not proof that you are unworthy. A stretch of silence is not a sentence against your value. It is simply his choice. But you also have a choice to lower your standards just to keep his cheap attention, or to stay silent, hold your head high, and let him feel the weight of your absence. When he goes silent, remember this. You are not the one who has lost her voice. You only need to learn how to use your silence as your declaration. And that declaration will always speak louder than any explanation. When a man begins to pull away, you notice it instantly in the smallest details. A slower reply, a shorter conversation, a silence that lingers longer than usual. In that very moment, a wave of anxiety creeps into your mind. You check your phone constantly. Your heartbeat quickens every time a notification pops up, only to feel disappointed when it's just an email, a group message, or something meaningless. And before you can think clearly, your finger's already typing out the question, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" This is the turning point, the very place where most women lose their power, because their actions are no longer guided by calm, but by fear. And when actions are born out of fear, they almost always lead to unwanted outcomes. Men may not say it outright, but they can feel the energy you radiate. A worried message, a rushed call, a desperate attempt to hold on, they all carry the same message. I'm afraid of losing you. And that is when you hand him the control. Understand this. Men don't respond strongly to words. They respond to emotional states. A woman swept away by her anxiety, reacting impulsively, unconsciously confirms that he holds the power. But a woman who can detach from emotion, who can stand still in the middle of her inner storm, she becomes irresistible. Detachment does not mean being cold or unfeeling. It simply means the ability to observe your emotions without immediately acting on them. When insecurity rises, instead of sending a message, you pause. You take a deep breath, and you remind yourself, this feeling is not a command. You may feel hurt, anxious, or unsettled, but that does not mean you must react. The moment you resist that urge, you prove to yourself that you, not him, are in control of the situation. Picture two scenarios. In the first, he goes silent and you instantly text him. He reads it, senses your nervousness, and concludes you are predictable. In the second, he goes silent and so do you. He waits for your reaction, but none comes. And in that silence, a seed of doubt begins to grow in his mind. Maybe she's not placing me at the center anymore. Maybe I misjudged her. It is this lack of reaction that makes him think. Detachment is not just a strategy, it is inner discipline. It forces you to confront the hardest part, the urge to control. You want to know why he's silent. You want reassurance that you're not wrong. You want to restore the familiar rhythm. But the truth is, the more you try to control, the more you lose yourself. Detachment means accepting that you cannot control his actions, but you can always control your response. This requires patience because the mind will keep tempting you. Just one message won't hurt. But you must be strong enough to stop and remember. Your worth does not lie in his reply or his inconsistent presence. Your worth is reflected in how you choose to respond. A woman who remains still, who doesn't chase, who doesn't beg for reassurance, that is the woman who holds the power. And here lies the powerful paradox. When you don't rush to react, you don't lose the opportunity, you create curiosity. When he expects you to chase but you don't, he is forced to face the void your absence leaves behind. Detachment not only protects your dignity, it makes him realize you are not predictable, not disposable, not someone to be taken lightly. The moment you hold yourself back from sending that message is the moment you win. Not because he regrets it instantly, but because you prove to yourself that you don't need to react out of fear to hold on to love. You are strong enough to pause, to step back, to remain silent. And sometimes that silence echoes louder than 1,000 accusations. Silence is never empty. It is a language stronger than any spoken word. In relationships, especially when a man begins to withdraw, many women instinctively rush to fill the void with messages, explanations, or subtle gestures meant to capture attention. Yet the more you try to fill the space, the more you dilute your own presence. True power does not lie in what you do, it lies in what you choose not to do. Men are not moved by endless explanations, nor persuaded by desperate attempts to prove worth. What captures their attention is the unexpected absence when the familiar suddenly disappears. In the moment they no longer receive a reaction from you, their mind begins to wonder, what changed? Where is she? Why is she no longer responding the way she used to? And that question speaks louder than any declaration. But holding silence is not easy. It requires inner discipline, a strength many overlook. Because inside, emotions will urge you to act, to send a short message, to post a picture for attention, or at least to check what he is doing. All of these impulses are rooted in one need, the need for validation. You want to feel you still matter, that your presence is acknowledged, and that need places you in the passive role. Inner discipline means resisting that temptation. It is like sitting in a room filled with the noise of anxiety, yet choosing not to turn up the volume, not to stir the chaos further. You observe your feelings, accept their presence, but refuse to let them dictate your actions. That is the strength of maturity. Knowing that emotions are real, but not always the truth. Imagine a woman who reacts on impulse. He delays a reply, she sends another message. He grows distant, she posts a picture to spark jealousy. He falls silent, she rushes to explain she did nothing wrong. Every one of those actions reinforces his belief that she is always there, always available, always more invested in him than in herself. And once a man feels secure in that certainty, he stops trying. Now picture the opposite, a woman who holds her silence. She does not chase, does not play games, does not perform. Her lack of reaction becomes the loudest reaction. It is not a tactic, it is a statement. I will not be controlled by your inconsistency. The power of silence is that it forces the other person to confront themselves. When you do not react, he loses the mirror he once used to measure his importance. He has no one to blame, no one to seek reassurance from. He is left to ask himself, what did I lose? Does a silence mean she's no longer here? And in that moment, the balance begins to shift back to you. Inner discipline is not built in a day, it is trained. Every time you feel the urge to act, see it as a test. You may fail a few times, but the first time you resist, you will feel the weight of freedom. Freedom is not about breaking away from him, it is about breaking away from the need for his validation. A woman who understands the value of silence no longer spins in the cycle of proving disappointment, anxiety, proving again. Instead, she stands firm, calm, allowing her silence to become a declaration. And men do not forget that feeling because it touches their deepest insecurity, the fear of losing what they once thought was theirs to keep. Remember this: silence can be your enemy when it comes from him, but it can be your greatest weapon when it comes from you. The difference lies in inner discipline, choosing stillness, choosing not to react, choosing to let your absence speak. In a world full of noise and urgency, silence is not weakness. It is the art of the truly powerful. When a man goes silent, the greatest mistake many women make is pouring all of their attention into him. Your mind spins with questions. What is he thinking? Where is he? Why has he changed? Every action you take in this state, from checking his social media to rewriting the same message over and over, comes from one place. You have placed him at the center of your life. And the moment you do that, you willingly drain your own energy to feed an insecurity that was never yours to carry. Here is the truth that must be remembered. No one deserves to stand at the center of your life except you. Every minute you spend analyzing his silence, tracking his absence, or worrying about whether he still cares is a minute stolen from your growth and your joy. Redirecting your energy is not just advice, it is survival. Because when you stop pouring your energy into the emptiness he left behind, you begin pouring it back into yourself where it has always belonged. Look back for a moment. How much time have you wasted trying to decode the meaning of a short reply? How many times have you delayed your own plans just to wait for his call? How much energy have you drained away in fear of losing his attention? Every bit of that energy, if redirected, becomes fuel for your own progress. Energy never disappears, it only changes where you place it. And the moment you place it back into yourself, everything begins to shift. Redirecting energy means reclaiming your role as the main character of your life. Instead of being swept into the script he writes with his silence, you write a new one for yourself. You return to unfinished projects, long forgotten passions, dreams you once set aside for the sake of a relationship. You reinvest in your health, your learning, your experiences, and in connections that truly uplift you. When you do this, you stop being the one who waits, you become the one who creates. True magnetism does not come from proving your worth to someone else. It comes from living a life so full, so whole, so radiant that you need no external validation. A woman who focuses on herself radiates a kind of energy that naturally draws others in, not because she is trying to impress, but because she is alive, joyful, and flourishing on her own terms. Picture this. He checks his phone, expecting a message from you, but there is none. He scrolls through social media, anticipating a post that hints at him, but instead, he sees you living. Not in a showy way, but with genuine joy. A smile during a night out with friends, a step forward in your career, a radiant photo after a workout. Each moment silently declares, "My life does not revolve around you." Redirecting energy is not a game to make him jealous or win back his attention. It is an act of self-preservation. Because the more you allow him to dictate your emotions, the more you lose yourself. But the moment you turn that energy inward, you realize a truth. You never needed anyone to complete you. You were always whole. You simply forgot it while you were too busy chasing someone else. And here lies the paradox. When you truly center yourself, he feels the shift. The attention that once fed his ego is gone. The energy once poured into the relationship now nourishes you. The space he thought you would always fill becomes a void that unsettles him. And in that moment, the balance of power begins to tilt back toward you. But the most important part is not whether he returns. What matters is that you reclaim your life. You learn to place yourself at the center where your happiness begins, not with him, not with anyone else. A man may fall silent, he may walk away, but the energy you pour into yourself will never abandon you. And when you live this way, you not only become unforgettable in his eyes, you become someone who will never again forget herself. Human beings are naturally drawn to what they cannot fully grasp, and love is no exception. Mystery is the quiet flame that keeps a man thinking of you. because deep down he is always compelled by what he has not completely conquered. When you are too predictable, too available, too transparent in every reaction, the allure fades. But when you keep a part of yourself untouchable, you become an unanswered question, and that is where irresistible magnetism lies. Many women, when ignored, choose to confront it directly, sending long texts, explaining, or even pleading for a reason. But the more you speak, the lower your value falls. Because men do not crave what they already hold securely, they crave what leaves them wondering. Your silence, when paired with mystery, becomes a psychological force far stronger than any accusation. Imagine this. Every morning, he is used to seeing your message, your sweet greetings or thoughtful words. It becomes routine. And with routine comes diminished value. But one day, that message doesn't arrive. He picks up his phone, finds nothing. Instead of the safety he once felt, a question appears. Where is she? Why is she no longer the same? In that moment, you plant in him a seed of doubt, a spark of curiosity he cannot ignore. Mystery is not about playing games or manipulation. It is about keeping certain spaces sacred for yourself. Not every detail of your life needs to be exposed. Not every thought needs to be shared. True allure lies in knowing when to reveal and when to withhold, because what is unknown always creates deeper desire. A woman who nurtures mystery is not hiding. She simply has a life so full that it does not need to be put on display. She does not live to provoke curiosity, yet her wholeness and independence naturally create it. When he notices you no longer respond the way you used to, no longer appear like clockwork, he begins to wonder. He questions if you are busy with something bigger, if someone else has captured your time, or if you have simply stepped out of his orbit. Mystery is the space that forces a man to imagine. And imagination is always stronger than reality. One explanation ends the questions. But your silence, combined with the parts of yourself you keep private, opens countless possibilities in his mind. And when his thoughts revolve around those possibilities, the power rests in your hands. The key is to distinguish natural mystery from artificial games. True mystery comes from a woman with a life so rich that she does not depend on a man's attention. She doesn't need to force distance. Distance appears naturally when she is focused on herself, when she guards parts of her soul no one can touch. Games may spark curiosity for a moment, but true mystery binds him in a way he cannot escape. Men are not captivated by a woman who gives them every answer. They are captivated by a woman who makes them keep asking questions. That uncertainty creates longing, because no one treasures what they take for granted. When you know how to let your silence become the doorway to mystery, you don't need to do anything more. The absence of words is enough to make him listen. Remember, mystery is not a wall of distance, but a graceful veil. It does not separate you, it elevates you. Because a woman with mystery is a woman who leaves an echo behind an echo. He cannot easily forget an echo that pulls him back, seeking to understand what he never fully held. And that is the most enduring allure of all, the allure of mystery. Nothing unsettles a man more than prolonged silence stretched across time. When a man withdraws, many women believe they must act immediately, send a message, make a call, post something to draw back his attention. They fear that if they wait too long, the bond will disappear. But the truth is the opposite. Time is your greatest ally, the silent weapon that forces him to question himself. At first, when you don't react, he may feel relief. In his mind, he thinks, she'll reach out eventually, she can't hold out. But then days pass, and everything remains quiet. He checks his phone, expecting your familiar message, but the screen stays empty. A week goes by, and he realizes the signals he once took for granted have vanished. And within that stretch of time, something new begins to stir doubt. The longer the silence, the greater the void. And that void is not just your absence in his daily life, but your undeniable presence in his mind. He starts to wonder, what is she doing? Has she forgotten me? Has someone else stepped into her life? Each question slowly turns into obsession because the human mind despises emptiness. When it cannot find answers, it fills the space with imagination. The beauty of time is that it transforms not only him, but you as well. While he sinks into doubt, you are given the chance to heal, to step back, and to see the relationship with clearer eyes. you realize that his silence was never about your worth, but about his inconsistency. Time allows you to rise above the emotional storm and ask yourself, is a man who leaves me waiting and questioning truly worthy of my presence? This silent weapon only works when you resist the urge to break it. Many women can remain silent for a few days, then give in and send a just checking message. And the moment they do, all advantage is lost. He is reassured that you are still there, still concerned, still waiting. But if you are strong enough to let silence endure, he is the one who must return. And when he does, he no longer holds the power, he comes seeking certainty from you. The greatest gift time gives you is not his regret, but your freedom. While he waits for you to react, you are changing, growing, becoming a stronger version of yourself. By the time he finally realizes how much you matter, you may have already stepped beyond the point of needing him. And that is the true victory, not making him regret, but freeing yourself from needing his validation. Remember this, time is not your enemy. It only becomes one when fear controls you, pushing you to break the silence for a moment of false comfort. But if you are strong enough to be patient, time will do the rest. It will turn your absence into weight, into presence in his memory, while you are moving forward. This weapon makes no noise, demands no explanation, requires no manipulation. It only asks that you trust your own worth and allow time to reveal it. Because in the end, a man may ignore your message for a day, a week, but he cannot ignore forever the presence that once mattered deeply in his life. And when enough time passes, he will realize the silence did not come only from him, it came from you too. And that is the moment when the balance of power shifts entirely. In every relationship, the balance of power does not lie in words, but in positioning. When you place him at the center, he holds the choice while you are left waiting. But the moment you withdraw your attention, the moment you stop reacting, the balance shifts. Because men never treasure what they see as guaranteed. They only begin to crave when faced with the risk of losing it. When your silence stretches long enough, when you stop sending signals that prove you are still there, he begins to feel the change. At first, he assumes it's temporary, that you will come back like before. But as days turn into weeks, certainty dissolves. What was once always available is now replaced with absence. And it is this absence that becomes the force driving a man to act. Men are wired with the instinct to pursue. When everything comes too easily, that instinct falls asleep. But when ease vanishes, when access is no longer guaranteed, the instinct awakens. He begins to wonder, has she changed? Did I misjudge her? Is she really slipping away from me? And from indifference, he shifts into unease. That unease becomes the foundation of pursuit. Your greatest responsibility in this stage is to hold your dignity. The mistake many women make is that the moment he sends a message or makes a call, they respond immediately with relief. They are so glad for his attention that they fall back into the role of the one waiting, and in that instant, every advantage disappears. Reversing the dynamic does not mean playing games or power tricks. It simply means living in truth. You are not the one begging for attention. You are the one he must work to keep. When he reaches out, you do not rush to answer. You do not fake coldness, but you let your time speak for you. You are busy, you have your own life, and you are not sitting around waiting. That alone is enough to make him recognize the difference. When you remain composed, you compel him to prove himself. He will text more, check in more, try to meet, even attempt to read your mood. And this is when the dynamic fully reverses. He now does what you once did, seeking certainty from you. The true strength lies in the fact that you don't need manipulation to make this happen. You don't need to stage scenarios or spark jealousy. You only need to redirect your energy away from what is unworthy and back into yourself. That shift alone is what makes him feel the loss. And when loss enters the picture, every man is compelled to act. Remember this, you do not have to accept him simply because he comes back. Reversing the dynamic also means you now hold the choice. If he has not changed, if his return is shallow or temporary, you can decline. Because power is not just about making him pursue, it is about having the authority to decide whether he is worthy of pursuing you. The moment you stop being the one who waits, you become the one who creates. The moment you stop sending the first message, stop centering your thoughts on what he thinks, you transform silence into your tool. And that very shift makes him see you differently, not as the woman he was certain of, but as the woman he now fears to lose. Men will always chase what they risk losing. When you step out of the circle of waiting and stand in the place of choice, you have completely turned the balance of power. And from then on, the game no longer belongs to him. It belongs to you, the one who holds the true value. The moment you realize that your worth has never depended on a man's consistency is the moment you truly grow. Silence, time, and the redirection of your energy have helped you reclaim control. But the ultimate weapon is not in making him regret, it is in letting him go without needing that regret. This is the highest power, absolute freedom. Many women, after holding silence for a while, open their arms the instant a man returns. They see his return as proof of their value. But the truth is, if you accept him back without requiring any change, you erase everything you have built. He will learn that no matter how long he disappears, no matter how inconsistent he is, you will always wait. And from that moment, respect evaporates. Setting new standards is not a game of power, it is a declaration to yourself. It says you will not accept half-heartedness, you will not tolerate inconsistency, you will not feed on scraps of attention. Standards are not designed to test men, they exist to protect you. A man who is truly worthy will not be intimidated by your standards. He will see them as an opportunity to prove his value. Those who walk away simply reveal they were never meant for you. True letting go does not mean cutting ties and bitterness. It is the state in which you no longer depend on external validation to know your worth. You may meet him again, you may hear his late explanations, but you no longer waver, because in the silence, you have already rediscovered yourself, the woman who needs no proving, no waiting, no permission to be loved. Think about it. If a man has to make you doubt your value, has to leave you in pain before he returns, is he truly the partner you want for the long road? A healthy relationship is not built on silence and regret. It is built on consistency and respect. And when you raise your standards, you filter out those unprepared while opening the door for the ones who are worthy. The ultimate power is freedom from outcomes. Whether he returns or vanishes forever, your stance remains the same. You continue to live, to grow, to shine, because your happiness was never tied to his decision to stay. It has always been tied to your decision to choose yourself. When you let go fully, you no longer need anyone to confirm your worth. And here lies the paradox. It is precisely in that moment that you become irreplaceable. A man may forget your messages, he may overlook your presence for a while, but he will never forget the feeling of losing a woman who knows her own worth. And sometimes he only realizes it when you've already moved too far ahead, when you've stepped into a life where he no longer exists. That is the true victory, not because he regrets, but because you have freed yourself from the need for his regret. The ultimate power does not lie in revenge, nor in making him suffer. It lies in the ability to let go with a peaceful heart. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Your very presence is proof. A woman who knows how to raise her standards, protect her dignity, and let go at the right time is a woman no one can diminish. Let him feel the loss, but never let that loss define you. Let your silence be the reminder that you were never made for shallow love. And let your true letting go be the final declaration. You don't need a man to define your worth. You are the worth.